Hello, I'm recording this on Thursday the 11th of September. Tomorrow I have my weekly trip to Monchique and I have a slight shortfall in available funds. This is a thriving community, but it does rely on me providing the basic foods. You can see how active the community is here. Well, there's two of them anyway. I don't know what you consider as a community, but yes, they're cats. There's also insects, there's the trees. It's a very thriving community of living beings, not just humans. I find myself being the only human here. But as I've said on previous videos, why worry about tomorrow when you can tarot today? My perspective on I haven't quite got enough funds for tomorrow is, well, I've given it to the universe. I'm still holding true to the vision. Things can turn round, and of course it does require taking active steps. So the creation of this video is taking an active step using the resources that I have available. But the tarot readings are very individual. They are a one-to-one between whoever requests one and myself, and what I interpret from the artwork in the cards, which is the Shining Woman tarot deck. It's been very consistent in the feedback that it's been highly accurate, and not knowing any information about the requester of the reading, still being able to see things in that. There's a couple of other things I would also like to mention that won't cost you a lot, and you'll get a lot more back out of it. Firstly, I would encourage you to join Archaic's Underground. That will cost you $5.52 per month, where there is a lot of interesting topics and posts and questions and things that is building into a phenomenal community. You could almost throw out anything like Facebook and such like and just go with that, and you'll get enormous value out of it. But of course, it's like everything else. It requires you to do the work. It requires you to actually read the articles, to watch the videos. But it becomes undeniable what is shown in all of this. I'm not going to go any more into that. But concurrently, totally unaware that Archaic's was creating this new platform, I also offer a members only section with this channel, which is very much in line with that, in how to take practical steps in facing this future that we have before us. I can only use my personal experiences, but it forms like a secondary network. So if anything did happen to Archaic's Underground, there is almost like a backup that is not directly connected with Archaic's. Yes, I do follow Archaic's, I do watch the videos and things, and as you will see if you scroll back through many of the videos, I often mention Archaic's and urge people to watch what the information that is being presented. Not least the recent conversation with Mark Passio, and the following one, the guy's name's Chuck, I forget the surname, Chuck something Jr. His father was sort of up there with Billy Graham. But part of understanding this reality is the enormity of this adversary that is in this reality. You could almost liken it to a single being that is riddled with cancer. But like that, there are ways of overcoming that. So my members only section is to provide you with ways and through discussions and things, find the best way forward. Certainly the tarot, the major arcana, reflects this. If you consider the first card is 0, which is the Fool, it is also regarded as the 22nd card. So the 21st card is the World. And then it comes back to the Fool. It's like a loop. We're not here to change the world. We are here to change our individual worlds, and also we can make a difference to the worlds of others, their own individual worlds. That can be done very easily with just a smile or a random act of kindness in some way that can make a real big difference to the world of another. There's a lot of things I would love to say on YouTube which I feel would be preferable to leave to interaction on Archaics Underground. There's some interesting things, shall we say. I've raised a question only today. It's a story that has been played out in many, many films, anything to do with zombies and zombie apocalypses, where one of these zombies is captured and then put in a cage, and then there are attempts to bring that zombie, restore them back to humanity, which never seem to have a very good outcome. But if you get what I'm referring to with something that came around in 2020, the big question is, can the humanity be restored in those that took this Trojan horse, shall we say? It'll be interesting to know. If we look at nature, nature does have a way of correcting things, but when it's at that sort of level, molecular level, who knows? But I feel there is a way with that, and it is something I will discuss, or have discussed, in Archaics Underground, and I will also discuss in the members only section. Now, to join that will only cost you £5 or €5 or $5 every 4 weeks. So it's not going to cost you an absolute fortune, but it could make a real difference. It is very much basically using the same pattern as, so we say, the creation of railways, where you had navigational engineers. So what I'm trying to bring together are the artists and the creators that are going to pave the way for humanity to ensure it does have a future, armed with the necessary skills and the self-empowerment to get through whatever you're faced with and be able to see it and experience it where you're not affected by it, or certainly not in a negative way. Now, there's something else, just I have touched on this, and it's sort of come up on a thread. In London, this coming Saturday the 13th, there is a huge demonstration, and there's been a lot of channels speculating on where that will go, potentially overthrow of a government, potentially storming Whitehall or whatever. But my advice is go your own way. Go anywhere but London. I would, like I've mentioned before, take your family out to a heritage centre, somewhere where you can become a volunteer, you can keep alive these old skills. If you have young children, you are exposing them to potential career opportunities and things that may inspire them that they are not even aware of. You just consider all the necessary skills to restore a railway line and actually run old steam trains on it, or vintage diesels and things. I use railways because it's a good analogy. As much as anything else, when you consider the creation of railway lines, the alignments they followed would require changing the landscape with cuttings, with embankments, creating tunnels and bridges and such like. So it is like food, in that there was human energy, a human resource went into that creation. That is critical to everything, be it food or, in this sort of material world, creation of a railway involved human input, putting human energy and creating something for far more than an individual, and provided a link with other individuals for the supply of goods and the movement of people. I feel it is a very practical way of doing things, but also here's an interesting little side note to this. These protests in London this coming Saturday are ostensibly about immigration and all the fears and things that go with that, and also bringing in things that come out through certain media outlets but not others, in this continuous divide and conquer tactic that is being played. But it is very predictable. But it's very interesting if I go back to this analogy with the railways. If you look at anything on India, the situation today that if you work for the railway, you are sort of like held in high regard. It is a pinnacle of success. So why is it these volunteers at these heritage railways, you don't see any communities of Indians getting involved, bearing in mind that a lot of these incoming cultures into Western Europe are very insular? And surely I would have thought central to anything to do with India would be the railways, and yet you don't see that reflected in the UK. What you actually see is a total absence. So if immigration is one of your chief concerns, well, you have an outlet, you have an escape that can lead somewhere to something practical, because you will find kindred souls. In some ways you could say that the railways epitomise the whole sort of British Empire, the colonial structure, which obviously was run by a certain subsection of the human race and brought together people of that subsection of the human race. I'm using these words very carefully because obviously there is censorship on things, especially when it seems to be current topics that go against the narrative. But it follows the same pattern, and if you look at the Jesus Christ playlist on this channel, I featured quite a few videos on there that disprove this historical character called Jesus Christ as being a carnalized historical being. It is a spiritual story, but there's a pattern. You can pull the Bible apart just by cross comparison of sections of the Bible, as has been displayed beyond any reasonable doubt by archaics. Just consider this character Moses, who went up the mountain and talked to God. Surely therefore a very important character, but then just look at how few times he is mentioned in the Old Testament. That should be a red flag to anybody. But of course, people will attach themselves to belief systems. That is really the outplay of you nail yourself to a cross, because you're fixed to that belief system. And unfortunately, there is two types of trinity in this reality. One is the imagination creates reality, which requires that 3 steps of what would it be like, and just weighing things up inside, then putting yourself into the position of imagining, asking yourself, those questions. How would I feel? And then taking the leap and following through to what you have visions, the 1, 2, 3, the hop, skip and a jump. But you also have its counterparts in this reality. And although your intentions may be good and you're trying to wake others up, you will get the alternative 1, 2, 3. You'll be met with ridicule if you suggest anything that goes against the accepted narrative. It's too much of a mind blow. You're upsetting their reality. Then you'll get what is called the violent reaction. That could just be verbal. It doesn't necessarily mean physical. Then to move past that, the third step is to step into the unknown. Many will not even go there. That is a core theme with anything. So in this experience that I'm going through, each week is stepping to the unknown. There is always that ever-present feeling, and the way things look to present themselves, that we haven't got any money to get through this week. We haven't got any money to buy cat food and things. I'm not getting the requests for tarot card readings. And I could go into that fear thing, but I don't. Because week in, week out, by holding true to the outcome I wish to see, that it has always followed in the most unlikely ways that the conscious mind cannot even sort of calculate or work out. Actually, here's another 3. You have sight, but you also have hindsight and foresight. And those other 2, the hindsight and the foresight, do they really involve the physical eyes? I could also give you another example of 3 eyes and this 3-eye atlas. What if I was to suggest it is Iran, Italy and Israel, and certain things that are in those countries that are sort of orchestrating a lot of things, shall we say. It's all about perspectives on things. So whilst my immediate situation doesn't look that great, I can take active steps in, I can look at what I've got, I can implement a sort of rationing of food upon myself and work through this, and all the time holding true. So there's taking a practical step of, well, if it doesn't happen, I do have a backup plan, because that is something else with this external reality in the material world. By playing 2 sides in this divide and conquer game, it sets up, it doesn't matter which side wins, it's always a win-win. So that is a blueprint we can definitely take for ourselves and set up a win-win. The week after that, I know not, because it requires stepping into the unknown and being fearless about it, because it is putting out a very different energy than if you are in the fear state, that low vibration. Because what I will tell you from my own experience, when you reach a certain level of higher vibration and you stay true to self, the external energy harvesting will leave you alone, because it's going to use too much energy to try and pull you back down into that fear state of low vibration. And there are many easier targets to go for, and it certainly generates plenty of those. It is about being true to self. It is about recognition of oneself. It is about observing this reality, what it is really showing to you, or showing for you is probably a better term, because often we can have things happen and the first reaction is to say, why is this happening to me? When it is not, it is happening for you. And don't be fooled to think that this benevolent protocol won't do things that are, from a material perspective, can seem quite cruel. But they are lessons for us to learn, and they are things to overcome. And with the hindsight, it is highly possible to recognize that they were for your greater good, although in that moment they may not seem like that. But a moment passes, and then it becomes another moment. And then comes that realization. So again, that is something that I shall be talking about more on my own members only section. Now, you won't find the little logo because I'm not waiting for playing this silly dance with YouTube of, oh, you've got to have reached this criteria. It's like, well, I can use the resources I've got. Just contact me direct. The details will be in the description if you wish to know more, if you wish to become a member of this channel. But equally, I would encourage you all to become members of Archaics Underground. That will really help. It will put you in contact with those that are on the same frequency, on the same wavelength. And out of those changing individual worlds, it becomes exponential when two or more gather, to use a biblical quote. The energy becomes far greater than with just one individual, which is phenomenal and enough. But when that comes together with others on the same frequency, that energy becomes stronger and stronger. And that is also tied into, if you have this perception of why does the world seem stacked so heavily against us, that is the reason. It is also, as like True Love Channel explains, it is a dream within a dream. So there are actually two doors to pass through, not just one. And it is entirely possible to do. And I'm holding true to that vision of we will be able to pass through that and pass through this reality. We are just passing through this after all. It is just an experience that we are going through. It is not the end when you cease to be in this reality. It's just an ongoing process where we gain experiences to take back to the real reality, which is outside of this construct. Right, we've got to nearly 23 minutes. I feel that's a good place to stop. But yeah, avoid London this weekend. Don't get involved. Go and do something that is creative and far more beneficial to yourself and your immediate family.